Okay, so we are back, and this is the project again. Obviously, by the way, I have finally booked the slot for this Viva, which is tomorrow at 10 p.m. So yeah, tomorrow I'll be basically going through the project and preparing the theory questions and theory topics. I mean, and all that stuff. So yeah, but I thought that let me just complete this celery thing, which I was talking about, which is this one. So I think all of these are important. Let me just go by this one.
In this video, I'm going to show
Okay.
you how to get emails working in your Flask security app, both with and without Celery. So we'll start without Celery. So let me go over to extensions.py and I'm going to set up the object for Flask Mailman. So from Flask underscore mailman, import mail, capital M mail, and then mail equals mail right here. And then I can go over to my dunder init.
Okay, so I'm not using that mailman, whatever he's using, but let me just go through it anyways.
And just import that. So the extensions here, just add mail. And then down at the bottom, what I can do is I can do mail.init app and then pass in the app object. Once I've done that, now I need to supply the configuration. So one configuration value will be security email sender. So this will just tell Flash Security where to send emails from. So this is my email account. So support@prettyprinter.com. And then what comes after this is the actual login information for my email account. So app config, and then we have mail server. And then I'll just put some placeholders here for the rest. So we have the server, we have the port, we have use TLS. So let's use TLS. We have the username, and we have the password. So the server for me is Fastmail, so smtp.fastmail.com. And by the way, you can get this information from your email provider. The port is going to be 587, which is pretty typical. Use TLS is going to be true. The username is the same as the from, so support@prettyprinter.com. And then the password is this value that I need to paste in. So let me just copy and paste in here. So with the mail configuration setup, all I need to do is just turn on the email. So send register email, I'm going to turn that on, and then I can set security confirmable to true, so the confirmation emails will be sent. Let me just add a Y there on that one configuration value, and then I can try it out. So let me go to my app, then go to register. So Anthony@prettyprinter.com is my email. Password I'll put in and hit register. And notice it's taking a while, like it's loading, it's loading, it's loading. So it's not returning immediately, and now it returns. So let's go to my email, and then we see I get a message here. So this is the link. I can click on the link to confirm, but I'm not too concerned with the link. It will just take me back to my app. So we see that email is now working with the app, and it was pretty easy to set up with Flask Mailman just at the configuration. So now what I want to do is I want to bring in Celery so the app doesn't have to wait when the user registers. So the first thing I need to do to set up Celery is I'll install it. So I'll do pip install Celery, and then I'm going to use Redis as my broker, so I'll install Redis as well. And then I want to create a Docker compose file. So docker compose.yaml just to get Redis set up. So if you have another way of running Redis, that's fine. But in my case, I'm going to use Docker compose. So services, I'll call it Redis. The image will be Redis. And then the ports will be 6379. Right, so 6379 will be mapped to my local machine. And then I can do Docker compose up-d to get it started in the background. And Redis should be up and running now. So I can close Docker compose. And now I need to go over to the Flask docs and then bring in some code from the docs. And this is just a setup Celery. So I can copy this and I'll put it in my extensions.py. It can go in its own file, but I figure extensions.py is fine. And I want to.
I also had this Flask task initially, but then I've removed it, as you can see here. Although I'm not sure how will it impact or anything.
To move the imports up. And I also need to import from Flask just to have the type hints work right here. All right. And then I want to bring in this Celery init app into my dunder init.py. So let's import that and then just call it down here at the bottom, Celery init app, and then pass in app. And while we're here, we can set up the Celery configuration. So app config Celery. It's going to take in a dictionary. We can pass in the broker URL, which is going to be Redis. So Redis : // and then localhost 6379. All right. And then let's create a file called make Celery.py. So this is outside of the app folder. And then we can copy the code from the documentation into it. Where is it? Here. So we'll copy this and paste it in. And we'll just say from app because that's the name of the directory. So from app import create app. And then celery will be available. So let's get it started in my other terminal. I'll do celery-a, make celery. So the file I just created, we want to start a worker, and then the logging level will be info. So let's see if this works. It looks like it's on. It's connected to our broker. There are no tasks yet because I haven't defined a task, but it looks like it's working. So I'll stop it. And to create the task, what I want to do is I want to create a file called, let's say, utils.py. And in this file, I want to create the task for sending an email. So this will be a shared task, which I'll import in a second. And I'll call this task, let's say, send flask mail. And it's just going to take in keyword arguments. And then I'll fill that in a second. So let me import shared task from celery. Celery import shared task. And then what I can do is I can go to the Flask security library inside of my env. And let's find it. Okay, so Flask security. And then I'm looking for mail util. And what I want to do is I want to copy the code for sending an email with mailman. So it's this first if here, and it's really just this part here. So I'll copy this, and I'll paste it inside of my function. And I'll modify it a bit. So let's fix the indentation.
Managers, be ready to get replaced.
What
AI is now doing your job. Tools like ChatGPT can already plan tasks, write project updates.
And then for mail, I'll need the mailman object. So from .extensions, import mail. And then for this here, I'll make a change. Instead of passing arguments like this, I'll just pass the keyword arguments. So keyword args, because the function I'm going to call this function from the task will have the keyword arguments for me. And I need to handle this HTML. So I can just get this from the keyword args. So html.keyword_args.pop and then HTML. And if it doesn't exist, we'll just set it to none. All right. So now what I need to do is I need to create my own version of this class mail util. So I'll import that from celery. So mail util, and then I'll create a class called celery mail util. I'll inherit from that. And I just need to overwrite the send mail method. And this method, if we go here, we'll take in these values. So self template subject recipient, self template subject, and recipient. And then the next ones are sender, body, and HTML. So sender, body, HTML, and then keyword args. And this should be a comma here. And then what I can do is I can call my task. So send flask mail dot delay. And then what I can do is just pass in these arguments. So subject body from email. So subject equals subject. Body equals body. HTML equals HTML. We also should have a from email. So from email here, sender. So let's say from email equals sender. And then what am I missing? Recipient. So we have 2. And then a list. So 2 equals and then a list with recipient in it. And I believe that's it. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 here. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That accounts for everything, including the HTML. So that should be enough. So let's try it. Let's start up celery. And it's still not detecting the task. Oh, there's one last thing to do. If we go here, what we need to do is we need to import this from utils. So from .utils, import, and then the class that we just created. So celery mail util. And then we're going to add it when we initialize security down here. So this is going to be mail util class like that. And now if we start celery, and that's because mail util doesn't come from celery, it comes from Flask security. So import mail util. So let's try it again. Okay, so now we see the task, send Flask mail. So let's start the app and try to register. All right, so I'll put in my information. Hit register. It returns immediately. Let's see if we get an email. No email, so there must be an error in celery. So email multi-alternatives, that must be misspelled. Or no, it's not misspelled, it's just not being imported. So from flask_mailman, import that. So let's restart celery. All right, let's try again. So let's register and then put in my information. Hit enter. And it says it sent the email. Let's see if we get it. So the task succeeded and the email has arrived. So we now have the email working with celery. It returns immediately instead of holding up this page here from loading because it's trying to send the email first. And we see down here it took 4 whole seconds to send the email. So if we didn't have celery, the user would have to sit there and wait for 4 seconds. So that's all I want to show you in this video, how to get email set up in Flask security. If you're interested in learning more about Flask security, check out the other videos on my channel.
Okay.
Step into Wix Studio, the platform for agencies and enterprises. Kick off projects.
In this video, I'm going to show you how to use Celery in a Flask app. And to demonstrate it, I'm going to show you how to build this simple app where you can use the OpenAI API to generate images. So the idea is I can put in a prompt to generate an image, and the image is going to be generated in the background. So for example, if I put for a prompt a city with many tall buildings and generate, this is going to generate in the background. So I can still use the app. It's not blocking me from doing anything. And once the image generation is done, then the app will be able to pick it up and display the image. So as you can see, I only have the 3 original images, but once I have the new image ready, I'll see it. So we see this image here of the city with a bunch of buildings, and that's because it took maybe 10-15 seconds to generate this, and Now that it's ready, we can see it in the app. So you'll be able to do things like this in your own Flask apps with Celery. And even though this example is pretty simple, it actually covers a lot of things that you have to do with Celery. So I'll show you how to set everything up and how to create this app. So let's get into creating this example. Okay, so to begin, let me show you what I have. I have the basics of a Flask app setup. So I have a Dunder init in here with SQL Alchemy set up. I have an extensions.py with SQL Alchemy already set up there. I have a model for images. So all my saved images will be here. Their URLs and their prompts will be in the database through this model called images. And then I have a route that renders a single template. So the template is already done. It's expecting a list of images and it will show it in a carousel, but I don't have any images yet. So once I get the images, we'll see the carousel pop up. So the first thing I need to do is I need to prepare to use Celery. So first I need to set up my broker. So I'm going to use Redis as my broker, and I'm using Docker Compose to make it easy to set up. Okay, so I'll start up Docker Compose. So Docker Compose up-d, and it's starting in the background, so that should be fine. All right. So now let me install everything I need. So I already have Flask installed. I need to install Celery, and I need to install Redis. And because I'll be working with the OpenAI API, I need to install that. So pip install OpenAI. All right, so everything should be installed. Now what I want to do is I want to make my Flask app work with Celery. So typically in Flask, you would install some kind of extension, but because the Celery integration can be so simple, instead you can go to the Flask docs. So go to the Flask docs, the website, and then look for background tasks with Celery. So let me just search for Celery here, and then we have this link called background task with Celery. And what you can do is you can copy this code. So this first block of code, you can just copy it, and you can put it in its own file, but I'm going to put it in extensions.py since I don't have much going on in here. So I'll do extensions.py. So I'll paste it in here. And we see it gives me this function called celery init app. So then I want to import that function in my main Dunder init. So I'm already importing DB, and I want to import celery init app. And then just under DB init app, I can call celery init app and pass an app. So let me briefly show you what's going on here. So it's creating the celery app here, and it's passing a special task class called Flask task. And the only thing that it's doing here is adding the app context. So I can use the app context inside of my celery task when the time comes. So I can connect to the database, I can get configuration, things like that. It's setting the configuration from something called Celery on the config object, so I'll set up that in a second. It's setting the app as default so it can discover all the tasks in the app pretty easily. And then it's just putting the Celery app on this extensions object, and it's naming it Celery. So pretty simple. So let's go back to Dunder init, and let's fill in the config. So app config, and then Celery. And what I want to have is I want to have two things. I want to have the broker URL, and I want to have the backend URL. And they're going to be exactly the same because I'm going to use Redis for both. So result backend is the name of the key for that. And then both of them are going to be Redis // localhost and then 6379. And that comes from running on Docker Compose. It's exposing 6379 for Redis. So I'm just connecting to that on my localhost. So let me copy that and paste it in the result backend as well. And then finally, I need to create a make celery file. So make celery.py. And this will be outside of my app directory. So I'm going to do from app import create app. And then I can create the app here. And if we look at the example here, so the application factory, this is all I'm doing here, and then we need celery app equals Flask app. So let me change this to Flask app because sometimes Celery looks for the word app. So we'll just make this Flask app, and then we're getting the Celery object off of extensions just like we saw in extensions.py. Notice how it's putting it on extensions here. Here in make celery, we're just taking it off, and then we're leaving it as celery app. So once we have all that, we can try to start it up. So we can do celery-a and then make celery. So the name of the file, make celery that I just created, worker, and then let's do -l info. So we have here this error, and that's because in extensions.py, one thing that they did is they're using a type hint for celery init app. So you have two options. You can remove the type hint, or you can import Flask like this, and then it will work. So now if I do it, we see that celery turns on. I don't have any tasks defined because I'll do that in a second, but we see that the transport and results are both localhost 6379. So now let's work on creating a task. So in my app, I'm going to create a file called tasks.py. And in here, the first thing I need to do is I need to import something called shared task from Celery. So from Celery, import shared_task. And the idea with this is it's a decorator, and any function that I decorate with shared task, so add shared task, will be registered as a Celery task, meaning I can call it in the background. So in this particular example, what I want to do is I want to call a function called generate image, and it's going to take in some prompt that I pass in. And for now, I'll just print out the prompt. So we'll get it working with this print first, and then we'll bring in the OpenAI stuff later so we can focus on the Celery part for now. And now I've created the task, so now we need to use it inside of routes. So I have the route for index just returning the template. And what I want to do is I want to import that task. So from .tasks import generate image. And what I'm going to do here is if it's a post request, so I'll say if request.method equals post, I'm going to call the generate image function, and I'm going to pass in request.form prompt. And that's simply because inside of my template, I have a form, and it has an input here called prompt. So that's what I'm going to be getting, and we see it here. It's just this input, and then the generate submits the form. So let's go back here, and let's go back to routes.py. So I'm going to call generate image, and remember it's a Celery task, so instead of just calling generate image by itself, I need to add .delay, and then that will send it over to Celery. And then once this runs, I just want to return to the same page. So return redirect URL for, and then main.index. I'm just going right back to the same route, but sending a GET request. So let me restart Celery here to make sure that the task gets found. So if I go up here to tasks, we see app.tasks.generateImage. So the task that I created is there and it's available to be used. So now let me start my app and I'll submit the form. So Flask run.
Hi, I've created an algo
Dude.
prompt which works tirelessly for me every minute and every.
And let's go over and let's say a dog at a beach. So of course this won't generate an actual image for me yet because I haven't hooked up OpenAI, but I
By the way, I had disconnected the
can
headphones
hit generate
one.
and we see it immediately returns
Okay.
the page. If I go back to my console, we see that there are no errors. It's a 302, so the redirect worked on the post. And if we go to the celery one, we see if I go down to the bottom, it ran the task for me. So we see it said it received the generate image task, and then it prints out the prompt because in my task I'm just printing it out, and then it says it's complete. So obviously it was really fast because it's only printing something. So in our actual example, this is going to do more work. So let's set that up right now. So what I can do inside of task is I can import the OpenAI stuff. So let's say from OpenAI, import OpenAI. And then inside of generate image, I'll write the code to call the image generation AI API for OpenAI. So I start by creating a client. Since I'm only going to use it in this one task, I'll create the client in here. If you're using it across multiple tasks, you can create the client like outside of all the tasks. So what I'll do is I'll create a response, and then I'll do client.images generate. So I'm calling it generates, and then I need to pass in a model. The model will be doll E3. The prompt is going to be the prompt that gets passed in, so the same prompt here. N equals 1, I just want one image, and then the size will be 1024 by 1024. So once I get that response, then I can create the image in my database. So what I'll do is I'll import my image model. So from .models import images, and I'll create a new image. So image equals images, and then it takes in a URL. So the URL is going to be response.data. It's going to be the first one since I want one image.url, so that's where it's stored. And then I want to store the prompt. So prompt just equals prompt. And then I'll do db.session.add image, and I need to import db. So from .extensions import db. And then I want to do db.session.commit to save the image in the database. So I've modified the task, so I need to restart Celery. So let me stop Celery with Control C, and then I will start it again. And no errors, so that's good. And then let me go over to the app, and I'll generate the same image this time. But this time it's going to use the API. So a dog at the beach. Generate, it returns immediately. Let's make sure that everything is working. So it received the task, and this one is going to be a lot slower because it's using the AI API. So this is going to take several seconds. So we see now it sent the post request to the image generation endpoints, and then we see it succeeded in 11 seconds. So let's look at our database to see if there's anything in there. So instance here, and then db SQLite 3. And now we see we have this URL, which I can copy, and then we see the prompt, a dog at a beach. So let me go in my browser and just paste that in there. And we see an image of a dog at the beach. So now let's get this to appear in our app because right now we don't see any images. So all I have to do for that is I need to go to routes.py, and I want to pass in a list of images. So it's going to be like images equals images here. So I need to grab those images. So let me import some things from SQL Alchemy so I can query. So from SQL Alchemy, import select. And then I want to do db.session scalars. And I want to do select images, which I'll have to import. So from .models import images. So select images and then .all. And then I can pass all the images. So this will get all the images that I have stored, put them in a variable called images, and then pass it to the template. So now if I refresh, we see db is not defined because I forgot to import it. So from extensions import db. And now if I refresh, we see the image of the dog. So one image, let's create another one. A car at a racetrack generated. And notice that the image doesn't appear right away because it takes some time to run. It's running in the background. So this is a nice thing about Celery. It's not blocking the user from using the app, but once the image is ready, it's going to appear. So I'm just refreshing. It's still not ready. Let me refresh again. And there we go. Now we see the picture of the car at a racetrack. We see the prompt there, and we see both images. And let's generate one more. A cool computer gaming setup. Let's do generate. Once again, I don't see that third image because it hasn't been created yet, but I can still use the app because it's running in the background. And then whenever the picture is ready, it's just going to appear in here after refreshing. So let's see, still the dog in the car. Let's see if it's here. Okay, here we go. Now we have the cool computer gaming setup. We have this weird monitor that looks like it's like half a monitor on the side, kind of weird, but it looks nice other than that. So we see that everything is working in the background correctly. So with this example, we've actually covered a lot of things that you'll end up doing in your Celery task. You'll be interacting with the database, so you'll be saving something to the database or querying something from the database. You may be calling an API, and you may be doing something that takes a while to run and that you don't want to block the user from using the rest of the app. So that's it for this example. So with that, if you want to learn more about how to use Celery with Flask, I have other videos on my channel that you can check out.
So you just mentioned that you want to learn Python. So do not learn Python in manual way in 2025 because learning Python in manual.
Hey everyone, in today's video, I want to show you how to build this progress bar that will indicate the progress of your Celery tasks in your Flask apps.
I don't think I want to see this one because yeah, Let me just.
Hey everyone, in today's video, I want to show you how to create simple.
Okay.
Dynamic schedules in Celery Beat using Celery Red Beat. So Celery Red Beat is a tool that you can use to create like dynamic schedules instead of using the default stuff in Celery Beat where like the schedules are static, right? So you would define the schedules ahead of time in Celery Beat and then it will just run according to that schedule. With Celery Red Beat, you can create dynamic schedules and then the schedules will run like based off whatever your users decide or whatever you decide in your app. So I'll show you.
Okay, that's something else that I'm not using again. So that one's not gonna help me either.
Hey everyone, in today's video, I'm going to show you how to deploy a Flask app that uses Celery to render. So this is going to have four different parts to it. It's going to have the Flask app, the Celery part, a Redis instance, and also a Postgres database. So I'll show you how to set all this up.
Okay, it's again not useful for me because it's Postgres database. Although let me just skip a few things and see if it is yeah, Postgres. Oh shit.
Hey everyone, in today's video, I'm going to show you how to schedule tasks in the future using Celery. So there are two approaches that I'm going to demonstrate here. One is setting a time when you first send the task. So basically you tell Celery to wait a certain amount of time before running the task. And then the second approach is to set up a schedule. So Celery will follow that schedule and run your task on that schedule. And I know Celery can be difficult to work with. So if you need any further help beyond this video, I do have something called a coaching program. So I will work with you one-on-one to help you solve any problems that you have with Celery, Flask, Python, or just anything programming related. So if you're interested, just go to prettyprinted.com/coaching, or you can go to the link in the description below. So the code that I have in this video comes from the last Celery video that I made. So if you haven't seen that video, you can also go to the description and watch that video first. But I'll briefly go over what I have here, just so you know what's going on. So I have this make Celery function. This basically sets everything up. It brings in the config from Celery config on my app. And then I have this tasks.py file, which has a single task, which adds a user. So I'll fill out a form, and then it will add a user through the Celery task instead of in the route itself. So here in views, we see it will call add user.delay, which will send that over to Celery to run. So just to demonstrate, I'll go to /create user in my browser. And then for the name of the user, I'll call that future. And then in my database, I'll query, and we see future has been added as a row in the table. So what I want to do is I want to demonstrate the first method that I mentioned where I can tell Celery to wait a certain amount of time before running the task. So here delay is actually a convenience function for something called apply_async. So you can go ahead and just change delay to apply_async. And then you need to pass the arguments just like you have here. So I have form data and I'll make it explicit. So I'll pass a tuple. So tuple form data, since it only has one item, I need the comma. And then there are two ways to do this. So the first way is something called a countdown. So Celery will wait a certain number of seconds before running the task. So it will receive the task, and if it has a countdown on it, it will wait those number of seconds. So let's say the countdown is 10. It will wait 10 seconds before running it. So let me save this and give it a shot. So let me go back to the Docker Compose one, and then I'll try creating a user. So we'll call this 10 seconds, add user. It started, and we see it received here, but I don't see the loop of numbers displaying. And if I just wait a few more seconds, it should start because it's waiting 10 seconds. And there we see it goes. So it waited 10 seconds before starting the task, and now it's running the task. And if I wanted to cancel it, I could, but no reason to. And we see that it's done. So that's one approach to doing it. A second approach is to use ETA. So instead of a number of seconds,
again, it's
Stop
not.
wasting time applying for jobs on LinkedIn or Naukri or other online
God
job portals.
damn.
be.
It's like this is my school ID or mail ID or whatever, so I cannot add any extensions here. But I really want to add an ad blocker. But anyways, so he's not using cron tab, which is what I was using. But anyways, let me again move ahead.
Hey everyone, in today's
I don't think these things are gonna. What the fuck am I saying? I don't think these things are gonna be used for me. I'll just have to search
Hey everyone.
about the things that I have implemented, because I don't think he's implementing the same way, and that's totally fine. But I need to know my own code and not the new ways and all. This says SQL Alchemy though, although this was like 8 years ago. Let's see.
Hey there. So thanks for watching my YouTube video, and thanks for coming to the bonus video, which is a video on how to integrate SQL Alchemy into a Celery app. So the reason why you will want to integrate SQL Alchemy in a Celery Flask app is because database transactions can take a long time depending on what you're doing. So if you are trying to query a lot of data for something, say a report, and then you take that data and generate a report, and then maybe email that report to someone, this doesn't need to be something that people just sit at the browser and wait for. You can initiate an asynchronous task to go generate that report, and then when it's done, it can get sent to the user while the user can continue using your app in other ways. And another example would be if a user is
This quality of sound is killing my ears though.
because by the time it's just random strings with characters from A to E.
Fuck.
Here that I've done in previous videos. So what I'm going to combine is basically using a Celery task to create a Celery task. I have the code to make
God damn, man, this this quality is killing me. But anyways, I should not be complaining. The guy is doing a great job. It is
and
just
then
that
I'll just copy this.
it's not being of any use for me. Yep. I was thinking it could be something that I can do, but I don't really think so. Anyways, I'm just going to skip this.
KiloCode is a powerful, open source AI coding assistant that supercharges your development workflow right in.
Okay, I think this was the first read in these three things, and then he was doing like adding the celery things and stuff. So yeah, I think I've done what I could, and I've tried finding things, but I don't think anything is going to work for me. I'll just have to search for what I've implemented in the code and implement it myself. So anyways, for tomorrow onwards, not tomorrow onwards, mainly tomorrow, I will be doing those things, and will be trying my best to prepare well for the Viva. So yeah, wish me luck. I'm not sure what I'll be doing tomorrow, because after exact 24 hours, I think I'll be in Viva, because this is 10:18 now, and I have the Viva from 10 p.m. tomorrow. Although it might be over in 15 minutes or so, I'm not really sure. Depends on the Proctor. But yeah, I'll have to basically work on all of these things and get an overview and a good detailing of the code so that I can present well. But anyways, I'll update you what happens, and maybe I'll just do something on the stream. So basically, maybe tomorrow's video will be a bit earlier, I mean, at least I'll record it earlier, maybe upload it later, but I won't be able to record it at this time. So maybe in the day after tomorrow's video, I'll update you. Or I might also have the second level Viva on the day after tomorrow. So, anyways, let's see. Let's see. Basically, I'm trying to get done with this project by this weekend. So today is like Thursday. So tomorrow will be my first level Viva, and if I pass that, hopefully I will. Then I'll have to do the second level Viva, and that will be on the day after tomorrow, which will be Saturday, or will be on Sunday. So yeah, by Sunday I will be done basically, and then I can move on to finally I can move on to React and leave these things behind. But anyways, that is it for now. Thank you for watching till now, and have a great day or night whenever you're watching, if you're watching. And yeah, I will see you tomorrow. Bye bye. Signing off.